What happens when one of the most legendary names in the SUV world gets updated for a new model year without losing the character that made it famous? Well, Toyota has now officially listed the 2027 Land Cruiser, and this is a vehicle that deserves a very close look. The 2027 Toyota Land Cruiser is not simply another year of the same SUV. Toyota has made a number of updates that make this rugged machine even more interesting, while continuing to focus on a combination of off-road capability, hybrid performance, everyday comfort, and unmistakable Land Cruiser styling. And if you have been waiting for a new Land Cruiser, there is a lot to talk about. Toyota officially announced the 2027 Land Cruiser in April 2026, and the company says the new model brings enhancements designed to strengthen the balance between rugged capability and premium comfort. Toyota has also confirmed new available features, a new exterior color, and a continuation of its turbocharged hybrid powertrain. So in this video, we're going to take a detailed look at the 2027 Toyota Land Cruiser, including the design, engine, hybrid system, four-wheel drive capability, interior, technology, safety features, trims, colors, pricing, and the biggest reasons this SUV could be one of the most interesting adventure vehicles in Toyota's lineup. Let's start with the design, because the first thing you're going to notice about the 2027 Land Cruiser is that Toyota has not tried to make it look like every other modern SUV. Instead, Toyota continued with a very deliberate heritage-inspired design. The shape is upright. The roof line is relatively flat. The body has short overhangs. The proportions are boxy and purposeful. And at the front, the Land Cruiser carries the famous Toyota Heritage grille. This is important because the Land Cruiser name has decades of history behind it. Toyota could have taken the vehicle in a completely futuristic direction, but instead the company has chosen to preserve visual connections to earlier Land Cruiser generations while giving the vehicle modern technology underneath. The result is an SUV that can look at home in a city parking lot, while still appearing completely believable when the road disappears and the trail begins. For 2027, Toyota is offering two grades, the Land Cruiser 1958 and the Land Cruiser. The 1958 is especially interesting because it pays tribute to Land Cruiser heritage with retro-inspired round LED headlights and a classic Toyota grille. That means buyers aren't just choosing between equipment levels. They're also choosing between different visual personalities. The Land Cruiser 1958 has a more nostalgic appearance. The regular Land Cruiser brings a more modern interpretation of the design, including rectangular LED headlights and additional technology and comfort features. And that gives customers a choice depending on what they want their Land Cruiser to represent. If you love the classic look, the 1958 could be the version that catches your attention. If you want more premium equipment and technology, the higher Land Cruiser grade could be the one to consider. Now, let's talk about something that matters even more than the exterior. What's underneath the hood? For 2027, Toyota is keeping things very interesting because the Land Cruiser is powered exclusively by the turbocharged iForce Max hybrid powertrain. This is a 2.4-liter four-cylinder turbocharged hybrid system, and Toyota rates it at 326 net combined horsepower and 465 pound-feet of torque. Those numbers are important because the Land Cruiser isn't trying to be an economy-focused SUV with a little bit of off-road styling. This is a serious four-wheel drive vehicle, and the torque figure is particularly interesting. 465 pound-feet of torque gives the Land Cruiser the kind of low-end pulling power that can be extremely useful when climbing steep terrain, crawling over obstacles, towing, or simply accelerating with a load of passengers and gear. The electric motor in the hybrid system is positioned between the engine and the 8-speed automatic transmission. Toyota says the system is designed to provide responsive performance while also improving efficiency, and the powertrain was developed with durability and heavy-duty use in mind. That is an important point. Toyota isn't treating hybrid technology as something that only belongs in small commuter cars. The Land Cruiser demonstrates how hybrid technology can be integrated into an SUV designed for serious capability. And when you combine that powertrain with standard full-time four-wheel drive, the Land Cruiser becomes a very different machine from the typical urban crossover. Toyota lists full-time four-wheel drive as standard. There's also a 2-speed transfer case, and the vehicle includes locking center and rear differentials. Now think about what that means in the real world. Imagine you're driving through deep mud, or climbing a rocky trail, or crossing loose gravel, or heading into a snowy mountain region, or carrying camping equipment far away from the nearest paved road. This is where the Land Cruiser's mechanical hardware becomes important. Modern driver assistance systems can make highway driving easier, but when you're off-road, hardware still matters. Traction, torque, ground clearance, four-wheel drive, differential locks, low-range gearing, suspension articulation, and the ability to control the vehicle at very low speeds. Toyota has built the Land Cruiser around that philosophy. The vehicle also features crawl control, which is designed to help manage low-speed off-road driving. Instead of constantly adjusting the throttle and brakes yourself, the system can help maintain controlled progress over difficult terrain. The higher Land Cruiser grade also adds multi-terrain select and multi-terrain monitor. Those features can be extremely useful when the trail becomes more technical. Multi-terrain select allows the driver to choose settings suited to different surfaces, while the multi-terrain monitor provides additional visibility around the vehicle. And that last part is particularly valuable. When you're driving off-road, one of the biggest challenges isn't always power. Sometimes the problem is simply not being able to see what's immediately around the vehicle. A large SUV can have blind areas, especially when you're approaching rocks, deep ruts, steep drop-offs, or other obstacles. Having cameras that help you understand what's happening around the vehicle can make a major difference. And Toyota has continued to develop this technology without forgetting the mechanical side of off-road driving. That's an important balance. Now, let's talk about the new features for 2027. Toyota has added an available high-mounted air intake. This may not sound as exciting as a new touchscreen or a new color, but for serious off-road drivers, it can be a meaningful upgrade. The location of an engine's air intake can matter when driving through dusty environments or dealing with certain off-road conditions. Toyota is clearly positioning the Land Cruiser as a vehicle intended for real adventure rather than simply one that looks adventurous. Another major new feature for 2027 is the availability of heated and ventilated second-row outboard seats. That is a fascinating addition because it shows the Land Cruiser's dual personality. This is a rugged vehicle, but Toyota also wants it to be comfortable. You can go from a rocky trail to a long highway journey without feeling like you're driving a stripped-down off-road machine. And that is probably one of the most appealing aspects of the modern Land Cruiser. It doesn't force you to choose between capability and comfort. The 2027 model also introduces a new exterior color called Inked. Toyota says the 2027 Land Cruiser is available in 7 exterior colors overall, including Ice Cap, Wind Chill Pearl, Underground, Inked, Meteor Shower, Trail Dust, and Heritage Blue. And there are also 2-tone versions of Trail Dust and Heritage Blue with a grayscape roof. Those color combinations fit the Land Cruiser extremely well. The retro-inspired design already gives the vehicle a distinctive personality, and colors such as Trail Dust and Heritage Blue reinforce the connection to the Land Cruiser's history. Now let's step inside. The interior of the 2027 Land Cruiser is designed to be practical, durable, and comfortable. This is not an SUV that wants to feel fragile or overly delicate. The layout is designed around adventure. You have useful storage. You have modern connectivity. You have multiple USB-C ports. And depending on the grade and options, you can get significantly more premium equipment. The Land Cruiser 1958 starts with heated fabric trim seats and a strong selection of standard technology. It includes a 7-inch color digital gauge cluster, an 8-inch multimedia touchscreen, 6-speaker audio, automatic climate control, 5 USB-C ports, wireless Apple CarPlay, and wireless Android Auto. That means even a more heritage-focused version isn't a bare-bones off-road vehicle. Toyota understands that modern buyers expect technology. You can love the old-school appearance of a Land Cruiser and still expect your smartphone to connect wirelessly. You can want a vehicle that can climb a trail and still want a modern infotainment system. That's exactly the combination Toyota is targeting. If you move up to the Land Cruiser grade, the technology becomes even more impressive. You get power-heated and ventilated Softex trim front seats. You get a 12.3-inch digital gauge cluster. You get a power liftgate. You get a 12.3-inch multimedia touchscreen. And you get a 10-speaker audio system. There's also an available 14-speaker JBL premium audio system, depending on configuration. So imagine sitting inside this SUV after spending an entire day on the trail. You got dirt outside, mud on the tires, dust covering the body. But inside, you can have heated and ventilated seats, premium audio, smartphone connectivity, a large digital display, and modern driver assistance technology. That contrast is one of the biggest reasons a Land Cruiser is so appealing. It can be rugged without feeling primitive. And Toyota has taken that idea even further with the available Premium Package. The Premium Package adds leather-trimmed heated and ventilated power front and second-row seats, driver's seat lumbar support and memory, the 14-speaker JBL system, a digital rear-view mirror, a head-up display, illuminated entry, and a power moonroof. Now, the Land Cruiser starts feeling much closer to a premium SUV, but it still retains a physical design and mechanical capability that define the model. This is where the Land Cruiser becomes particularly interesting. It isn't a traditional luxury SUV. It isn't a stripped-down off-road vehicle. It's somewhere in between. It's a vehicle designed for people who might spend Monday through Friday commuting in the city, and then spend Saturday and Sunday exploring somewhere far beyond the pavement. And that flexibility is extremely valuable. Now, let's talk about the driving experience. The 326 horsepower hybrid system provides a strong combination of power and torque. But the Land Cruiser isn't really about winning drag races. That's not its mission. The goal is confident, controlled performance. When you press the accelerator on the highway, you want enough power to merge comfortably. When you're climbing a steep trail, you want torque. When you're towing or carrying heavy gear, you want strength. And when you're navigating difficult terrain, you want predictable throttle response and traction. The iForce Max system is designed around that broader mission. The 8-speed automatic transmission also gives a vehicle the flexibility it needs for different driving conditions. And because the Land Cruiser uses full-time four-wheel drive, the system is always ready to send power where it is needed. This is very different from many crossover SUVs that use all-wheel drive primarily as a traction aid on slippery roads. The Land Cruiser is engineered with serious off-road use in mind, and that's why features like the center and rear locking differentials matter. A differential lock can help maintain traction when one wheel or axle is struggling for grip. For serious off-road enthusiasts, these aren't gimmicks. They're part of the reason the Land Cruiser has such a strong reputation. And Toyota has also designed a vehicle on the TNGA platform. This platform supports several of Toyota's body-on-frame trucks and SUVs, including vehicles designed for demanding use. Toyota says the platform contributes to the Land Cruiser's strength, while also supporting a more composed ride and confident on-road dynamics. That's important because nobody wants to drive an uncomfortable truck every day just because they occasionally go off-road. The Land Cruiser has to work in both environments. It needs to be stable and comfortable on highways. It needs to be maneuverable in cities. And it needs to remain capable when the pavement ends. That's a difficult engineering challenge. But it's exactly what the Land Cruiser is designed to do. Now, let's talk about fuel economy. Toyota's current listed estimate for the 2027 Land Cruiser is 22 miles per gallon city and 25 miles per gallon highway, depending on the source and configuration. Of course, real-world fuel economy can vary based on driving style, terrain, weather, load, tire choice, and other conditions. But the important point is that Toyota is combining a powerful four-wheel drive SUV with hybrid technology. That would have sounded unusual a decade ago. Today, it's becoming increasingly normal. And the hybrid system isn't just about saving fuel. It also contributes to the vehicle's performance. That is one of the major differences between modern hybrid technology and the way many people used to think about hybrids. The electric motor can provide immediate torque, helping the vehicle respond quickly. So you can think of the hybrid system as both an efficiency technology and a performance technology. Now let's talk about safety. The 2027 Land Cruiser comes with Toyota Safety Sense 3.0. This suite includes features designed to assist the driver and help reduce the risk of collisions. Depending on the specific system, the package includes pre-collision system with pedestrian detection, dynamic radar cruise control, lane departure alert or lane departure alert with steering assist, automatic high beams, road sign assist, and lane tracing assist. These systems are particularly useful on long highway trips. Imagine taking the Land Cruiser on a cross-country road trip. You might be driving for hours. Traffic conditions change. Speed limits change. Lanes become congested. And you're dealing with fatigue. Driver assistance technology can provide additional support in those situations. But it's important to remember that these systems are assistance technologies, not replacements for an attentive driver. The driver remains responsible for controlling the vehicle, and that is especially true when you leave the highway and enter difficult off-road terrain. Now, one of the most interesting things about the 2027 Land Cruiser is the 1958 grade. Toyota didn't simply call it a base model. The name itself is a reference to Land Cruiser heritage. The original Land Cruiser story goes back decades, and the 1958 designation connects the modern SUV to that history. The design emphasizes that connection. You get round LED headlights. You get the heritage grille. You get a simpler, classic appearance. But underneath, you still have modern hybrid technology and four-wheel drive hardware. It's almost like Toyota is saying, what if we took the spirit of an old Land Cruiser and rebuilt it for today's driver? And that formula seems to work. The Land Cruiser 1958 isn't trying to look futuristic. It's trying to look timeless. And there's a big difference. A futuristic design can look impressive today and dated 10 years later. A timeless design can continue looking good for decades. The Land Cruiser's upright proportions and simple shapes are designed with that second philosophy in mind. Now, let's talk about the regular Land Cruiser grade. This version is aimed at customers who want more technology, more comfort, and more convenience. The rectangular LED headlights give it a different face from the 1958. The interior becomes more premium. The digital displays become larger. The infotainment system becomes larger. And the available options can transform the cabin into a very comfortable long-distance environment. You can also add the premium package for even more luxury. So the buyer essentially has two personalities to choose from. The 1958 is the heritage-focused Land Cruiser. The Land Cruiser grade is the more premium and feature-rich version, and both maintain the core mechanical foundation. That is a smart strategy because Land Cruiser buyers aren't all the same. Some people will care deeply about the classic appearance. Others will care more about technology and comfort. Toyota gives both groups a choice. Now, let's imagine using the 2027 Land Cruiser as a daily vehicle. You start your morning in the city. The hybrid system provides smooth acceleration. The cabin gives you modern connectivity. The cameras and driver assistance systems help during traffic. You arrive at work. Later that week, you load up camping gear. You head out of town. The highway becomes a two-lane road. The two-lane road becomes gravel. And eventually the gravel disappears completely. This is where the character of the Land Cruiser begins to shine. You switch to the appropriate drive settings. You use the available terrain systems. You monitor the trail through the vehicle's cameras. And instead of worrying about every rock and rut, you can concentrate on choosing the right line. That is the Land Cruiser experience. It isn't just about having four-wheel drive. It's about having a collection of systems designed to make difficult terrain more manageable. And then, when you're done, you can drive back home without needing another vehicle for the highway. That versatility is what makes the Land Cruiser different. Now let's talk about price. Toyota's official U.S. information lists the 2027 Land Cruiser with a starting MSRP of $58,080 on Toyota's consumer website, while Toyota's newsroom announcement originally stated a starting MSRP of $57,880. Pricing can change and dealer or regional pricing may differ, so buyers should verify the current figure when shopping. This is important because Toyota's published pricing can be updated over time. So if you're watching this video months after publication, check Toyota's current official listing before making a purchasing decision. But regardless of the exact number, the Land Cruiser is positioned as a premium-capable off-road SUV rather than a budget vehicle. You're paying for the platform. You're paying for the hybrid powertrain. You're paying for a full-time four-wheel drive. You're paying for the Land Cruiser name. And you're paying for the engineering designed to work both on pavement and off-road. The bigger question is whether the package is worth it, and that depends entirely on how you plan to use the vehicle. If you only need a vehicle for commuting around town, you probably don't need a Land Cruiser. There are smaller and more efficient Toyota models that would make more sense. But if you want an SUV that can serve as a daily driver while also giving you serious adventure capability, the Land Cruiser starts making much more sense. And if you spend weekends exploring remote trails, camping, hunting, fishing, overlanding, or traveling through rough terrain, the Land Cruiser becomes even more attractive. It is a vehicle built around flexibility. Now, let's talk about the competition. The Land Cruiser enters a market filled with capable SUVs. There are rugged competitors from Ford, Jeep, Lexus, and other manufacturers. Some competitors may offer more horsepower. Some may offer larger cabins. Some may offer more luxury. Some may offer more aggressive off-road equipment. But Toyota's advantage is a combination of several qualities: reliability, reputation, hybrid technology, off-road heritage, practical dimensions, modern technology, and a very recognizable design. The Land Cruiser doesn't necessarily have to dominate every single category. It simply has to be good enough across many categories to become the vehicle that buyers trust for a wide range of situations. And that has always been part of the Land Cruiser philosophy. Go almost anywhere, carry what you need, keep moving, and get home again. That philosophy is still visible in the 2027 model. The high-mounted air intake is another example. The available second-row ventilation and heating is another. The hybrid powertrain is another. The locking differentials are another. Toyota is combining old-school mechanical capability with modern comfort and technology. That combination may be the most important thing about this SUV, because the future of off-road vehicles is changing. Customers increasingly expect electrification. They expect large screens. They expect smartphone integration. They expect advanced safety technology. But they still want real capability. Toyota appears to believe that the answer is not to choose between those worlds. Instead, the answer is to combine them. And the 2027 Land Cruiser is one of the clearest examples of that approach. Now, if you're watching this because you're considering buying one, there are a few things you should think about. First, decide whether you prefer the Land Cruiser 1958 or the regular Land Cruiser. Do you want the retro appearance? Or do you want the additional technology and comfort? Second, think about how often you actually go off-road. If you rarely leave the pavement, you may not need every available off-road feature. But if you're serious about trail driving, equipment such as the locking differentials, crawl control, multi-terrain select, and multi-terrain monitor becomes much more relevant. Third, think about how many people you usually carry. The Land Cruiser seats 5. That makes it different from larger 3-row Toyota SUVs, such as a Sequoia. For a couple, a small family, or an adventure-focused owner, 5 seats may be perfect. But if you regularly need 3 rows, you may want to look at another Toyota. Fourth, think about the kind of trips you take. If you're driving long highway distances, the hybrid powertrain and comfortable interior can be attractive. If you're spending most of your time on difficult trails, the 4-wheel drive hardware becomes a bigger story. And if you're using the vehicle for both, that's where the Land Cruiser really makes sense. One of the things I find most interesting about the 2027 Land Cruiser is that Toyota hasn't tried to make it unnecessarily complicated. There are 2 main grades, the 1958 and the Land Cruiser. That simple strategy makes the lineup easier to understand. You don't need to study 10 different trim levels to figure out what you're getting. The 1958 emphasizes heritage. The Land Cruiser emphasizes additional comfort, technology, and trail capability. Then you can add available packages and options depending on what you need. That simplicity is refreshing in an industry where vehicle configurations can sometimes become extremely complicated. And the design follows the same philosophy. The Land Cruiser doesn't have dozens of fake vents. It doesn't need an enormous grille. It doesn't need to look like a spaceship. It looks like a Land Cruiser. And that's probably exactly what Toyota wanted. Now let's talk about the colors again, because this SUV looks particularly good in adventurous colors. Trail Dust gives it a classic expedition feel. Heritage Blue emphasizes the Land Cruiser's history. Meteor Shower gives it a more distinctive appearance. Underground provides a darker, more modern look. And the new ink color gives buyers another option for a more understated appearance. The two-tone combinations with the Gray's cape roof are especially interesting because they make the SUV look even more connected to its heritage. And that brings us to one final question. Is the 2027 Toyota Land Cruiser worth getting excited about? Absolutely. But not because Toyota has completely reinvented the Land Cruiser. The opposite is true. The 2027 model is interesting because Toyota has continued refining a formula that already works. You still get the upright design. You still get the four-wheel drive system. You still get serious off-road equipment. You still get the Land Cruiser heritage. But now you also get a turbocharged hybrid powertrain. You get modern infotainment. You get advanced safety technology. You get available heated and ventilated second-row seats. You get an available high-mounted air intake. And you get more premium interior equipment. That combination makes the 2027 Land Cruiser a fascinating vehicle. It is a reminder that rugged SUVs don't have to remain stuck in the past. They can evolve. They can become more efficient. They can become more comfortable.